Happy Thursday. Wow, it's so pretty out. The sun is blazing though. Um, I tried to come on so many times this week and do like a how I got here kind of video, like so that you can understand a little bit more about me and how come I kind of like talk about this stuff and know this stuff and what was it that led me here. You know, it's not like I just woke up one morning and this was information that I just had. I experienced some really dark places and hard times, and it took me quite some time to get here, but when I did, it was so miraculous. It was so life-changing for me. It was so supernatural and mystical that I knew that my life was forever changed. And I also knew that I had a very special healing on my heart. And I also knew that I was literally dying and that I was saved from death. So I knew that it was such a gift for me. It was a gift that was given to me freely. So that was the kind of gift I was going to freely give constantly. And I'm not stopping. So that's why I do these videos, is because the thought of somebody else feeling even anywhere near where I felt, or feel hopeless, or feel abandoned, or trauma, so much grief and sorrow, sadness, possibly depression or mental disorders, somebody struggling with substance abuse, those things, they affect me so deeply because I already know that your life doesn't have to look like that. That you could be the best, highest version of yourself every single day. And I just really want to devote my life to that. So, and I was trying to get this video across, but it's so detailed and it was taking so long. And I was like, is it morbid? Because I have to talk about the death of my daughter. And I think some people kind of want to know how my child passed away. And I've never really talked about it. So I was like scratching all the other videos. I'm like, no, it's too much. It's just too much. So I'm going to try to do it again and give another little bit of how I got here, and I'm going to keep it small. I'm going to keep it simple. Now I'm going to reserve real great details for FaceTime, for when I'm with people, when I do seminars or events, or where I'm talking to people one-on-one. But here on the internet, I think I'm going to keep it simple as best as I can, with giving enough information where you can understand where I was and how I got here. I think that's the best way I can do it. So fingers crossed that this one makes it, that this one actually makes it, and it's okay. It's hot in my car. The sun's going to be blazing on me, so hopefully you can see me. If not, you can hear me. So I'm going to talk about, first of all, I am the child of 6. I am the baby. There is 4 brothers, 1 sister, and me. I have my oldest brother, Louis. He's very spiritual. He's the oldest. Then I have my brother, Mark, who is literally like my twin, in the sense that we are the same person. He's like my kindred spirit. He really is. Then there's my sister Terry, and she's my best friend. She's so loyal. She's so strong. She was there when I needed her the most, and she always is. So then there's my brother Jimmy. My brother Jimmy and myself have very similar personality traits and very similar characteristic traits. It's funny when you put us in a room and we're talking. It's so similar. And I mimic him all the time. And then there's my brother Bobby. Him and I are the closest in age. We're 2 years apart, and we grew up together like best friends, and we truly are. He's such a compassionate heart. So I had the best upbringing, like literally the best family. The parents I had, God rest their soul, I miss them dearly. They are the best, the literal best. Oh, my father had such grace and honor. He taught us respect. He taught us compassion. He taught us how, if we're going to ask somebody how they're doing, to stop and really listen to how they are. He said, and if you don't want to know, then don't ask the question. It's very simple. And he was right. My mother, she taught us family. She taught us unity. She taught us security and safety, home. Repetition, because there was always the same thing. God, my upbringing was so special and so perfect. I would not change one bit about it. I always felt a little different. I am not gonna lie. I always felt different. I felt like I felt things very deeply, and I think all of my family does. We're all very in touch with other people's feelings. So, and we really have a lot of respect and compassion for people. Growing up was great, and I know that's not for everybody. Some people had the worst upbringing. My trials and tribulations happened later in life. And And I'm glad, because I think this was the foundation for keeping me from losing my shit, to be quite honest with you, for what I would be subject to later in life. I met my sweet husband when I was 17 years old. I was his waitress at Sizzler. That in itself is a story, because that was divinely orchestrated, but that's for another video. And we had 4 children. I had my family's perfect and whole, and I just couldn't want more. Listen, we never had money. That was never the thing. He's a hard worker. My husband never stopped since the day he got here from Brazil. And I'll be honest with you, he busted his ass for this family, and we never really had a lot of money. But we always got by very well. He took good care of us. But when my daughter Samantha was 5 months old, my daughter Katie woke up in the middle of the night on Saturday screaming that her head hurt. And I rushed her to the ER, and they, did a lot of tests. They told me come Sunday, she woke up, she says her head hurt so bad, she vomited. Monday, the same thing. I'm getting so nervous. So my mother said, just go back to the hospital, to the ER, just put your mind at ease and all that, peace of mind. So I did, and that's when literally I stepped into my nightmare, and I'm going to keep this really quick and simple. I went there and I told them I want her heart checked and I want her head checked. And they're like, Jen, she has a virus. We're not going to do that. I said, I'm not leaving. So why do you want her heart checked? I go, I don't know. Please just do it for me. And luckily the on-call doctor was her pediatrician. So she said, okay, Jen, I'll do it. They did it. We're waiting. And then all of a sudden I see a team of doctors kind of walking fast my way. And I'm like, what is going on? And all of a sudden a nurse stays with my daughter, and they pull me into this small room, and the doctor says, Jennifer, why did you ask us, and how did you know for us to check her heart? I go, Doc, I don't know. I just feel something in my chest. I don't know. I'm her mother. And they're like, well, her heart is 3 times its natural size. Not normal. Not okay, Jen. And they said, and she's got bleeding in her brain. I don't even know how to explain when those words hit me, how I felt. I felt like everything was closing in on me, and I just kept hearing that she has bleeding in her brain. And I was like, what transpired is we went from one hospital to the next. Robert Wood Johnson, everyone's like, don't let anybody tell you it's cancer. It's just a tumor. They're going to remove it. She's going to be great. It's a very common thing from children from 2 to 4. I'm like, okay. So then they transport us that night to to CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And it was just so surreal. And my friends, everybody drove down there. Family was there. I mean, it's Philadelphia. But I had support the second I walked in there, and it was quite amazing. So me and my husband were waiting for the following morning. They were going to do open heart surgery. They said she'll be great, and then she'll be having McDonald's downstairs later in the afternoon. So we had so much hope, and we were like, okay, good. In the middle of the open heart surgery, 2 doctors came out, and they pulled me and my husband into her room. She wasn't there. They were still finishing up. They said, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Souza, to tell you this, but we cannot finish the operation. And we were like, why? What do you mean? They're like, because that is the absolute worst cancer we've ever witnessed with our own eyes. Wait, what? What are you talking about? The cancer that she has is so bad, it is growing before our eyes, not even under a microscope. And in my professional history, I have never witnessed this before in my life, and I am so sorry, but we can't go any further. I fainted, screamed, cried. My husband fell down. It was such a realization that was so terrifying, and the thought that my daughter had cancer was more than I could actually bear. A lot of things happened since then, but come Wednesday, they did CAT scans, and those little bleeding spots in her brain turned to 5 goose egg tumors. It grew that fast. By Thursday, she was going blind in and out throughout the day, and it wasn't looking good. I was a shell of a human. I hadn't slept since probably Sunday. It's now Thursday. People were there. My family was there. Everybody was there helping guide us and support us and giving us encouragement and just keeping us afloat, Thursday night is the weirdest thing. I know he's an angel. I know this man is an angel. At 6 o'clock at night, everybody went home. I told him, go rest, go home. Me and my husband were talking to the nurses outside. And all of a sudden, I see a man go into my daughter's room. She was unconscious. And then he comes out, where's Catherine's parents? And it's like, me. And my husband's like, here we are. And he goes, I am so-and-so. I am the head of the NICU. I have been following your daughter's case since you came in. And I want to be honest with you. Call every single person you know. Your daughter's dying tonight. And I was like, wait, what? Wait a second. What the hell are you even saying? He goes, I'm telling you now. Call home and get everybody here that loves her, because she will be passing tonight. My husband jumped him. It was such a serious situation. They had to escort him off the floor. They had this huge meeting after that. It was the head of the NICU, the head of the CICU, the chair members. It was the hospital social workers. It was a big deal. And they were like, Mr. and Mrs. Souza, I am so sorry this happened to you. That is our head of NICU. He has never done anything like that before. He is reputable, and he has been here for 20-something years, and I am sorry this happened, but there's no reason. She's not dying tonight. There is no indication of her passing. I have no idea why you did this. The apologies were going like crazy because of a lawsuit and all, and I was like, okay. So now I have people coming, fierce, driving from Jersey to Philly. I'm like, don't worry, it was a mistake. They're like, oh my God. Finally, my last people were coming was my cousin Karen and Doug. And when they're running through the parking lot, I'm like, no, relax. It's a mistake. And then we're going upstairs to her room, and all of a sudden my mom comes out. She goes, Jen, Katie's asking for you. So it was 3 seconds. I go in, and I immediately recognize something wasn't right. So I lift her eyes, and I do a neurological check with the flashlight, and I realized that her pupils were blown. So within 3 seconds of her saying, Nana, I want mommy, she went brain dead. And that was the beginning of her act. That's when she started to actively pass away. It took a good hour and a half, I think, if not more. And I remember the head of the CICU came, and he was the man who did her open heart surgery. He was an old man, and he sat there and he waited for her to pass because he wanted to pronounce her death. He wanted to give us respect. Finally, I just couldn't take anymore. I kept passing out and crying and screaming, and I was thinking my daughter's literally dying in my arms. I laid in bed with her. I held her the whole time she died, with my husband and my mother, father, my in-laws, my friends and brothers and sisters, and everybody was around. And I just can't believe my daughter's dying in my arms. There's one thing when your child is welcomed into this world. The feeling, the love is so immense. There's another thing when you hold your child as they're leaving the world. The feelings are so soul-crushing. I can't give it any kind of real meaning. And when she passed, the doctor goes, oh, she's gone to heaven. Just like that. And I thought, oh, as if you witnessed it. My girlfriend Evelyn said she saw her little feet go up as if she was being escorted spiritually. To put my daughter down on that bed when I looked down at her and her lips were blue, and to leave, I would have thought you'd have to take an army to get me out of that room. And when I left the room, and me and my husband were finally leaving, and everybody behind us, all the parents stood outside the door and just bowed their heads. It was really sweet and very honorable of them to do that to us, and it was really just such a beautiful and horrific experience all in the same. What transpired after that was very supernatural, and I don't know if I should get into all those things, but I can say this. On the day of her funeral, mind you, her viewing, I was very blessed to go to the funeral home with my girlfriend Judy, her godmother, and my mom, and get her dressed and prepare her for her casket. It was an honor for me to want to do that, and to do her hair and lipstick, a little bit of blush to give her some life. And everybody that came, people I haven't even seen in 20 years, people from high school, friends I grew up with, that I will never forget. I will never forget one of their faces. They brought me so much comfort and love. I'll never forget. There's about 500 people that came in there, and I knew that it was going to be the most difficult to see a child in a casket, and not many people ever do. So I knew I had to keep my composure, because God forbid they see the mother losing it. But men were passing out left and right, and all the wives and the girlfriends were holding their men. It was very difficult to see a small casket and a child in there, and she looked beautiful. Then trying to think. So on the day of the next day of the, so we're following the hearse in the limo, me, my husband, my father, and my mother, and the thought and the realization of following a hearse with my child in it was so overwhelming. I couldn't catch my breath. And then I was looking up at the sky, and all of a sudden I see the clouds start to form, and they were moving quick. It was really weird. It was so strange. They were just kind of moving, and I was paralyzed, and I was memorized, and I all of a sudden I see Jesus Christ. I think I spoke about this on a few of my videos, or one of them. And I remember seeing him filled with the whole sky, and not a vision of just Jesus Christ, living Jesus Christ, an actual movement as if he's in front of me, but he was literally the sky. And I was, holy shit, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. And the beauty was coming from within, and I could see every piece of hair on his face. I was like, wow. And I could not tell anybody because I was paralyzed. And all of a sudden he starts to move his arms up, like towards his chest. And I'm like, oh, please show me that you're holding my daughter. Please show me you're holding my daughter. That's all I wanted to know. And all of a sudden he gets to his chest, he smiles, he disappears like that. And all of a sudden there was my daughter smiling down, laughing. And she's like looking at me like, Mom, I'm right here, And I was like, oh my God. And then she disappeared. And I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I broke free from that being paralyzed. And I told my husband and my mom, I was like, I just saw Christ. I saw Katie. And I'm like, oh my God. They're like, my husband goes, I wish I saw Katie. So then the funeral happened, and I don't remember it because I was in and out of passing out and just not there. And we were out front, and all of a sudden my husband goes, Jen, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? He goes, I saw Katie run across the stage. He says she was wearing her little blue dress and her ribbons and those little socks that have the bows on it. She was dancing around the priest, and she was laughing and waving at me. I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, Jen, I swear to God. Then my mother walks out, and she goes, Jen, Rick, you're not going to believe this. I saw Katie. She ran across the stage wearing her little blue dress and her ribbons. She's like, she was twirling and laughing. And I was like, what? So they both had the same exact vision. To follow that was horrendous and horrific, and the years that followed were ripping my soul little by little out of my chest. Now, I was never mad at God. I never was mad at God for my daughter's passing. I felt honor, gratefulness, and blessed that he took her in 5 short days, because the thought of her ever suffering more than that was more than I could bear. I was never mad at God. But as the years were going by, and I was suffering more and more, and the pain was getting worse, and I was having a car accident, I had so much physical pain, my separation from my husband, trying to learn how to manage this new family dynamic that felt so fucking not familiar to me. I would find myself outside at my childhood home. I would be there at 3 a.m. sobbing because that was familiar to me. I did not even recognize my life or myself or the anger that was starting to fill me. And I was never mad because of my daughter's passing. I was mad because Jesus showed me he was holding air. I see Jesus in the sky and he shows me he's holding air. I thought, what a fucking cruel Father in heaven. Who wants that kind of Father in heaven? I don't. And then I'd have more issues and more pain, and the level of pain I was in physically was inhuman. It was inhuman. I was on so much medicine, and I was never high. I was on fentanyl patches. I was on Cadian, which is morphine released. I was on dilaudid pills. I was on Vicodins for breakthrough pain with Percocet. Now, not all at the same time, but some of them at the same time. I was on Soma. I was on Ambien XR. Let me tell you something. I was on more drugs, and I was 98 pounds. I should have been dead. But I was grateful for that pain, because that pain took away my concentration or my focus on the heartache that was so horrific. So it was, my anger was getting bad, and I was calling him and cursing him, and my mom would be like, Jen, please don't say that. I'm like, fuck him. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I said, Ma, do you know what it's like to have joy ripped from your life? I'll never get it back. I will never get it back. That is a fact. My daughter's not going to reappear. I will always be the mother of a dead child. My husband will always be the father of a dead child, and we are fractured, and my son and my daughter will always be missing their sister. And my other son, who was born 2 years after him, her death, he will never know his sister. So no, F him. I was rough. But I still had a compassionate heart for people. I still was this person. So that was happening. So one day I wake up to go and have another medical procedure on my back, but I fall to the ground because I'm in such horrific pain. The ambulance has to pick me up. I wind up having a colon infection, and I am now becoming sepsis. The doctor's like, we need to admit you immediately. And I thought, whoa, my whole world went like it shifted on its axis, and all of a sudden it just literally went like that, and everybody was tilted, and I'm like, the fuck is happening here? And I swear everything went grayish, like white and gray, like kind of, and I was like, nothing was in color. Has been in color for a long time. And I remember saying, no, I want to go home. I need to go home. God knew I was dying. I just wanted to die home. So then I told my husband the next day, which I was worse, I'm good, I'm feeling a little better, go to work. I sent my kids to school, and I did not want them, or my cousin picked up my baby. I didn't want them to see me passing away. I knew I was dying. That was happening. I felt everything shutting down, and I was weaker than I've ever been in my life. And I said to myself, just get to the bathroom. It was 9:50 a.m., October 15, 2007. I will never forget that day. And I said, get to the bathroom. I got to the bathroom. As soon as I finally got to the bathroom, I fell to my knees. And when I fell to my knees, I grabbed my head and I sobbed like a baby. And the last time I sobbed like that was when I was holding my child, and I was sobbing as she died. And I start begging God Almighty and begging from the depths of my soul for my daughter to come home. I'm like, you need to bring my daughter home. I was so irrational. I was crying and begging through the halls of my house, bring my daughter home. I need my daughter home. You have to bring my daughter home. And then it was this weirdest shift in my brain. It was a flip, and it was it was like, whoa, wait a second. She's home? I was like, oh my God, she is home. It was a literal, it was a matter of fact, it was an acceptance, a trueness of acceptance. And I thought, oh my God, she's home. She's always been home. And then I immediately thought, oh God, I need help. And I start begging God, and this is exactly what I said. I said, oh God, please come into my heart. Oh, please come into my heart. I said, please take away some of this pain. I can't live with this pain anymore. I said, I was like, please just take away some of the pain so I can remember my daughter. I said, don't take away all of it, because I just want to remember her. I just want to be a better mom. I want to be a better wife. I want to be laughing again with joy. Just give me a Band-Aid. I said, please just give me a Band-Aid on my heart. I said, I just want to be me, you know? I haven't seen myself in over 5 years. So then all of a sudden, a wind starts to shift around me. It was so amazing. It was so cool and felt so warm at the same time. It was fierce, but yet it was soothing. I felt like I was bathing in something just so mystical and so supernatural. I figured I was probably passing away, and I was welcoming it, and I was comforted. I felt like I was being comforted. And then all of a sudden, in my right ear, I hear a male voice say, you can live or die, Jennifer, you cannot do both. He was so clear. He was so matter of fact. He was profound. There was no affection for me. There was no comfort. It just was what it was. And I said right away, I want to live. I want to live. Because I knew there was a spark in me. There was still a speck of a spark that knew I had a purpose and knew that I would find joy again. And I knew that I had a meaning for my life. If I can get from under this ache, this pain, this soul-crushing sadness, I would live. And I just knew that. And then all of a sudden the wind stopped. I got to my feet, took a deep breath, and I thought, okay. I know I was at a crossroads that day. I was given a choice. You could live or die. I chose life. And if I chose death, I would have passed in that moment peacefully running to Jesus Christ. What I'm saying is, for you, if you are in a soul-crushing experience, or you're depressed and you are sad, or you can't get from under those pills or the drugs or the alcohol, call out to God from the depths of your heart. What I can tell you is I was submissive. I was the most submissive because I have an ego, and I've never been that submissive in my life. And I was open, and I was at my rock bottom. He came. So 3 days later, I felt a very warm sensation on my left leg where I have sciatic nerve damage. I knew something spiritual was pushing on it with comfort and warmth, with a little bit of a tingle. I just sat there and enjoyed it. And when I finally had stopped and I got up, I opened my eyes and I was like, oh my God. I felt like all the lights were on. I felt like somebody put the switch on in me. I was like, oh my God. I was alive. I am alive. I'm seeing in color again. All of a sudden, I looked outside. It looked like the sun was blazing, like the sky was bluer than ever. The grass was the greenest. I felt like I was alive. The lights were on in me. I was seeing in color again. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't even realize how dull everything had been. I looked at my kids and I was like, oh my God, I missed you. I feel like I haven't seen them in years. God, it was so profound. It was so amazing. I wish I could experience that every day. And then I looked at my 2-year-old. I felt like I never even saw his face because grief blinded me. And I was looking at him for the first time. And I hugged him and I cried. And I was so happy. And then later that day, it was about 11 o'clock in the morning, I took my son outside. I have a wraparound porch, and he was riding his little big wheel, and I was so filled with joy watching him. And I felt something come behind me. I felt a presence. And immediately, I felt a presence. I knew it was Jesus Christ. Oh, you know when it's Jesus Christ. And I perked up, and he literally said in my right ear, so sweet, so soothing, so loving. He said, you remember the day. Just like that. And I thought, the day? What day? He goes, the day you saw me in the sky. And I thought, oh my God, I've been cursing Jesus all these years so badly. And I immediately start to cry. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he said, no. You're being too hard on yourself. He said, forgive yourself, for you know not what you do. Just like that. And I was like, oh my God. And then he said, that was the day I picked you up and I put you back on your feet 3 days ago, stronger than ever. When I tell you, that was the most profound thing I have ever experienced, because my perception was the absolute opposite of that. I thought, what a cruel father, holding air, showing me nothing. Who wants to worship or love anybody like that? My perception was completely the opposite of that. I never could have conceived that. So what I'm saying is, man, that changed the trajectory of my life like you can't imagine. And what followed that started the whole series of really mystical, spiritual. I had to go through a training process, a lot of different things, challenging things that would challenge my temperament, my disposition, my focus. It would my calmness, how I'm going to react, and I react great, I think, to all of them. And I mean, like, things like having spiritual experiences come at me, leaving my body, good, bad things, working with a high priest, a lot of stuff, and then it just still hasn't stopped. So I'll get into that another time. I want to say to you, if you are struggling and you are going through hard times, or you had abandonment or trauma in your life, or substance abuse, all the things I always talk about, right? The really hardship things, the things that take over the ability to really see clearly. If you're dealing with these things and you don't know how to get from under them, I am promising you, call out to Christ, call out to God. He is your creator. He is you. You are him. Call him into your heart. Because God never wanted puppets. He didn't want you to come here and remember it and just love him because of that. He wants you to love him because you want to love him. That's like, I don't want friends just because I bought them. I want friends because they like me, And that's what God wants. So he's not going to interfere with your free will. You got to open your heart open to him and be submissive in the sense that you want him to divinely work in your life. That's what I want. My way is not going to get me very far. I'm going to fuck up the whole way. So what I'm saying is, if you need help, call out to him and he will be there for you. And when I thought he had abandoned me, he had picked me up. He is holding you, whether you know it or not, he is holding you. Somebody once said to me, and I don't like it, oh, God's not going to put more on your shoulders than you can handle. And I thought, what a really screwed up thing to say to me, because this is some hard shit. But she was right. And God is not going to give you more than you can handle. If you're going through a hard time, it's because you have a high calling and you have high rewards coming your way. Just know that you are able and you are capable and you are strong enough. I love you guys. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. The next one will be more of the things that transpired after that. Okay, I think it's time. It's been like a year and a half of me giving experiences, and I think it's time you understand why I just talk about this stuff, why I know this stuff. I love you so much.